Okay. All right, let's arrive. Arrive on our seat, our Buddha seat. I'm going to do the Chenrezig Sadhana. Sanjay Chodam Sokchik Chodam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagji Jinso Jipe Sonam Ki Drola Pinshir Sanjay Drupar Sho Sanjay Chodam Sokchik Chonam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagji Jinso Jipe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchir Sanjay Drupar Sho. In Buddha, Dharma, and supreme spiritual community. So you guys can say this along with me, please. We go for refuge until fully enlightened by the power of all six perfections, from generosity to non-dual wisdom. May we realize Buddhahood for the sake of all beings. Crowning the head of all beings throughout space, Chenrezig appears from Hri. Upon a white lotus and full moon seat, 5 colored light rays shine from their clear white body. They are smiling and watching with compassionate eyes. Of their 4 hands, the first pair is joined at their heart. The other right hand holds a crystal rosary, and the left a white lotus. They are adorned with silks and precious jewels, and antelope skin covers their shoulder. Buddha Amitabha crowns their head. They sit with legs in Vajra position. Their backrest is a stainless moon. All refuges are united in them. Lord of whitest form, unsullied by faults, crowned by the perfect Buddha, viewing all beings with compassionate eyes, to you, Chenrezig, I bow. Thus, praying intently, light emanates from Chenrezig's noble form, purifying all manifestations of impure karma and confusion. The world becomes Dewa Chen. The body, speech, and mind of all beings become the body, speech, and mind of Chenrezig. All appearances, sounds, and cognition, undivided from emptiness. Om Mani Padme Om Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Om Om Mani Padme Om Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Om Om Mani Padme Om Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Om Om Mani Padme Om Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Om Om Mani Padme Om Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Om Om Mani Padme Om Ri Om Mani Padme Om Ri Om Mani Padme Om Ri Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Self and others appear in Chenrezig's noble form. All sounds are the melody of the sixth syllable. All thoughts are the expanse of great wisdom. Rest in meditation. In this space of awareness, I invite you to bring to mind a recent difficulty, a moment of impatience, anger, frustration, sadness. And honor how you feel. Is there any tendency to blame anyone or anything else? Any tendency to justify or rationalize, explain, tell a story? Honor how you feel. I invite you to bring to mind a moment of satisfaction. Maybe receiving a compliment or a moment of someone praising for something you did or said. Honor how you feel. Is there any tendency to identify, to feel defined by that moment of satisfaction? Honor how you feel. I invite you to recognize how others, all others, experience moments of difficulty and moments of satisfaction. We all have the opportunity to work with the conditioned mind in this way. To recognize emptiness is the best protection. Om Mani Padme Hum Hri 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. By this virtue, may we swiftly realize and fully embody the attainment of Chenrezig and thereby bring all, without exception, to its complete realization. From the power of recitation and meditation, as soon as this impure body is discarded at death, and may I and all connected to me be born miraculously in Dewa Chen. Then immediately after such birth, may I quickly traverse the 10 levels of the Bodhisattva path and send emanations in all directions for the benefit of others. I'm going to put in my earbuds here. Okay. So, what came up for each of you in that practice?
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So a difficulty and a success.
Yeah, satisfaction.
Satisfaction was sort of the same event.
Interesting.
So last night, Bryce and I went on a night hike to a place called Lighthouse here. It's an outcropping. And we generally leave late for everything. And this was not an exception. And we knew that we'd be walking back in the dark. And, you know, working with your spouse in challenging situations has really been a gift. I'll say that first of all. There's lots of material there.
Mm-hmm.
So Bryce was in charge of the flashlight, but then decided to embrace the darkness, which I was really impressed by. So as he was messing around with the lights, I saw in front of us what looked like a stick. It was a rattlesnake. And it was completely still. The dogs had already run over it. We have 3 dogs. It didn't move, it didn't rattle. But the moment we came in contact with it, with the lights and with our energy at the time, which was like, holy shit, it's a real rattlesnake in our path. You know, what do we do? And it was interesting, that point of fear and how we both handled it. I'll just comment on my part, how I handled it. I was scared and angry and like all of these emotions, these feelings came to the forefront. And so we tried to navigate around the snake because it wasn't moving. And of course, as soon as we got close, it started to rattle and curl up and get angry too, defensive too. And we finally passed it. We were very shooken up. We kept the light on the rest of the time. And it became like this mission for the light to illuminate our path so that we could see to get back safely. And there was a feeling of success and gratitude for coming across that fearfulness, you know? So what I thought of was the same event for both things, for our success and our difficulty. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really beautiful thing for us to experience together. I think that it brought us closer. I mean, we have rattlesnakes in Galveston, but this was different. This was very different. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. So we haven't really done this meditation quite the same way. You know, this is, you know, part 3 of the Lojong, where we're working. Chris, can you mute your sound? We got a lot of wind coming there. The Lojong part 3 of working with difficulties, and of course we commonly associate this with suffering, right? With bad feelings or difficult feelings. And today I invited you to also include in that kind of feelings of success, um, feelings of satisfaction. So why is that a difficulty? Why are both of these things, both, like Chris described, there was a moment of fear and anxiousness, but also a feeling of satisfaction. Why are both of this full range of feelings? Why are they all difficulties? What makes them a difficulty?
I guess our perception, our identification with what is happening.
Yeah, our identification. Linda, it looks like you were going to say something.
The same very thing, like that I immediately go to, that's a definition of me.
Exactly.
And then why am I not that way all the time? And then that brings up some sadness. And now I'm beginning to see that that's an unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It is in that moment it defines me, but not forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it feels like it's defining, doesn't it?
Yes.
And that's really our challenge, isn't it? To feel that anything in life experience is definitive in terms of who or what I am, right? Everything in life experience is wisdom offering me insight into the tendency to identify, to feel defined by what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, right? What I'm projecting, about myself or anyone else, right? So the Lojong gives us the slogan, emptiness is the best protection. So in that moment of feeling, a difficult moment of feeling sad or angry or frustrated or irritated, or in that moment of kind of feeling satisfaction, it's the opportunity to recognize the emptiness nature, isn't it? To see this as wisdom arising and dissolving. It's not, this isn't meant to to put a damper on how we feel, is it? To say, oh, I can't feel bad, no, I can't feel good, or any of that. Rather, it's the opportunity to go deeper than that. It's the joy of recognizing wisdom, isn't it?
And also a precious human life.
Precious human life. So, in that one, it's like being grateful to all, right? Not just my human life, but all human life. At the end there, I invited you to kind of notice that this is what we all do. We all have these moments of difficulty, whether it's sadness, frustration, irritation, or satisfaction, right? So then it's not so much about the happiness. We start to really resonate with the joy of insight, the joy of realization. Well, anyone else? What came up for you? If you'd like to, if you feel like sharing.
Well, I think for me, the satisfaction part of, excuse me, right now is that I am so thankful that for the gift of impermanence. When these difficulties arise and my eyes are starting to get open to the depths, and I know that I'm only just barely beginning to plumb the depths of my conditioning. And the thing that gives me satisfaction right now is that I know that impermanence is a fact. Mm-hmm. So that gift of impermanence gives me the ability to know that I can overcome these things, that they're not permanent. They're not an ongoing part of my life, or don't need to be an ongoing part of my life. And I've noticed a lot of what I have done in the past when it comes to aversion is actually indifference, feigning indifference. If something got too difficult or got too challenging, I would act like, well, I really don't care about that. I'm not interested in that. I don't need to fight that battle. So also confronting that is a difficulty, I think, right now, knowing that, seeing that that's been a pattern in my life and changing that.
Very nice. Very nice insight. Right. The power of indifference. Or ignorance. It's kind of talked about both ways, isn't it? Ignorance meaning to ignore something, which is kind of being indifferent to it. Yeah, that's good, Mickey. That's a really nice insight. Anyone else? Anything else coming up? So I got a letter yesterday from one of the inmates I'm working with that's taking the Lojong course. And with your indulgence, I'd like to read it. And he's on part 3. He's not, he's part of a Buddhist group down in the Segoya unit in Edinburgh, Texas, which is right on the border. I was down there a couple of years ago and did a weekend retreat with the group down there. It's a really nice group. So anyway, I thought I would read his response to part 3 of the Lojong. One way I was able to work with my feelings was to show myself by observation that I am not the only one suffering, and then take this back to the meditation with me. Also, just the simple fact of recognizing my feelings and thought patterns helped, because in the past, I would simply shift blame, numb myself with drugs and alcohol, or do anything to take my mind off of what I was feeling. So I've never really dealt with my feelings in any kind of way besides ignoring or avoiding them. So picking up on what you're talking about, Mickey. So just recognizing and letting them pass on without a lot of judgment and baggage attached to it really helped. Also, by recognizing the impermanence of my feelings, one minute mad and the next 10 breaths I'm fine again. Feelings are fickle. So me thinking that in order to be true to myself, I needed to let my feelings control me, or at the very least express them so others knew who I was really very foolish. By focusing on impermanence of everything, this has helped me deal with my feelings. So Mickey, he's almost giving word for word just exactly what you were talking about, isn't he? I understand the difference of absolute and relative practice to be. Relative is more like how we relate to the world, that all suffer and want to be happy, that my feelings are not unique. I am not alone in this pain or confusion. I can relate to others. While absolute is more focused on emptiness and impermanence, that everything is changing, and the whole grasping and attaching to everything stuff is futile. This helps you observe your thoughts and feelings and allow them to dissolve without judgment or attachment. And then the last part is the emptiness nature makes sense to me, because I know from experience that when I try to attach myself to things, it causes me pain. It locks me inside a box. To be empty in nature doesn't mean to not feel. It only means that you understand the impermanence of everything. So there's no need to attach and grasp of these feelings and purposely cause yourself and others pain. It's okay to honor your feelings, recognize it without judgment, then let it dissolve, let it go and let it dissolve. This present moment is what it is what it is. This present moment is what it is. The past is gone, and so will this moment be gone to the next. With an understanding of emptiness, nature, you become free. Pretty good, huh? And here's someone who's living with difficulty, kind of extreme difficulty every day. So you can imagine the joy of having an insight like that. Just not feeling defined by the fact that he's in prison, and and recognizing the fact that everyone around him is having the same kind of feelings he is, same kind of thoughts, same kind of difficulties, same kind of joys. So this is really the beauty of the part 3 of the Lojong, is it's really giving us these tools to work with difficult situations. So the next slogan after emptiness is the best protection, is the best approach is to maintain the 4 practices, also called the 4 powers. There's 4 powers, and in another part there's 5 powers. Anyway, we have to kind of, like in part 5 we get into the 5 powers, but here we're talking about, or part 4 we get into the 5 powers. Here we're talking about the 4 powers. The first is the power of support, right? Refuge. The most powerful support we have is our refuge. And what is our refuge? Our bodhicitta nature. Always there, unstainable, unchangeable. So this is kind of the absolute of the relative, isn't it? The bodhicitta is our essential nature. The urge to awaken and the opportunity to be a benefit to others. So the second power is the power of regretting, right? Confession, the acknowledgement of remorse. Do we understand the term remorse? Feeling bad about feeling bad, but not feeling identified. Why are you smiling, Andrea?
Yes, I for sure know what remorse is. That's all.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's a good thing to acknowledge, right? So what do we mean by remorse? It's like, I feel bad about something I did, right? If there's something I said, either to myself or someone else, right? Acknowledging a mistake, right? So remorse allows us to have this recognition of confession. And I know confession. The Catholics have kind of had a lock on the confession concession, but what we realize is that all traditions, all religious, spiritual traditions, recognize the power of confession. Yeah. And on the 15th of every month, we do the Lojong practice, the Vajrasattva, which is the Vajrayana Buddhist practice of confession, acknowledging non-virtue. Why is this powerful? Why is this combination of remorse and confession? Why is that so powerful? I mean, it dissolves this tendency to feel identified by anything I've done, whether great things I've done or mistakes that I've made, harming that I've caused, right? And that acknowledgement, coupled with our understanding of absolute and relative reality, is a very powerful formula for freeing us from feeling identified by mistakes. This is such an important thing in working in the prison. I mean, I meet with guys that have been living saturated by guilt and shame for years. Just their whole existence is about guilt and shame. They can't shake it. They can't get past it, the harm they've caused. And then it's multiplied by the fact that because they're in prison, they're not there for their families. They're not there to be supportive and guiding in their families. It's tremendous suffering, tremendous sadness. but it's locked in by guilt and shame. They can't get past it because of the guilt and the shame. So maybe all of us have experienced this to some degree. Like, God, I wish I hadn't have done that. I wish I hadn't said that. Wish that hadn't have happened, right? And somehow feeling defined by that rather than seeing the wisdom of guilt and shame. We couldn't feel guilt and shame if we didn't have virtue. We couldn't feel remorse if we didn't have virtue, right? There would be nothing. There would be. We wouldn't feel bad. We wouldn't suffer if we didn't have virtue. I think that's very important. It's kind of it's such a key point in our practice to recognize that without virtue, there's no suffering. Doesn't that seem contradictory? I mean, you'd think the opposite, wouldn't you? You'd think, oh, virtue is all about, good and love and fellowship and understanding, but it's our capacity for all of those that cause us to suffer, isn't it? Because we recognize being out of integrity, right? The suffering is the recognition that we're out of integrity with virtue. So just simply acknowledging, oh, that's a mistake. I deeply regret that, and offering up prayers, whatever it takes. I mean, some mistakes are much more serious than others, aren't they? I mean, to end up in prison is the recognition that the consequence of those mistakes are much more serious, right? So the shame and the guilt are not helpful to live with. They're helpful in the sense that they're wisdom. They're virtue pointing out to us, okay, that you're out of integrity. So let's go deeper. What's the cause of being out of integrity? 99% of the time, it's immaturity, right? Emotional immaturity, spiritual immaturity, isn't it? Making bad choices. Because the immaturity is the lack of wisdom, isn't it? So how are we to mature? How are we to gain that wisdom? By learning from our mistakes, seeing the wisdom of our mistakes, and recognizing that it's wisdom that's pointing that out, or it's virtue that's pointing that out to us. It's innate bodhicitta that is pointing that out to us. So by confessing that, we're not only recognizing mistake, we're also acknowledging virtue. We're acknowledging that I'm not defined by the mistake, that it's my innate quality, value of virtue that is allowing me to have this moment of feeling shame or feeling guilt. And with that comes the resolve, right? This is the power of dedication, or the power of resolution, right? The third power of resolution, resolving not to repeat that. Also resolving to live in integrity with virtue, with innate virtue, to not keep beating myself up, not keep causing myself, just reliving this and agonizing this and blaming or telling stories or trying to rationalize or all these other workaround strategies that aren't successful, right? Resolution, the power of resolution is acknowledging and then resolving not to repeat it, not to do that again, not to live in that state of despair, of sadness, of guilt, of shame. To feel identified by that this is now defining me. Seeing that it's our deeper virtue that's really what's working there, what's really coming up there. So then the power of positive action. Empathy and compassion. Okay? Empathy, the ability, our capacity to recognize the suffering of others is just like us. what others are going through just like us. That's empathy. When I really acknowledge my suffering, my difficulty, when I fully acknowledge that that's, you know, how I feel, it gives me the opportunity to recognize it in others. Doesn't it? Mickey, is that your dog? Whose dog? Mickey, can you mute your? Oh, there you go. Okay. Anyway, I don't mean to be yapping on like this, but I just think this part 3 is just so helpful. And then the last 17th, the 17th slogan: join whatever I meet with practice, so even the unexpected becomes the path. Becomes the path of awakening, of realization, of insights. If I'm burdened down by shame and guilt and sadness and remorse, if I'm burdened down by that, if I'm feeling defined by that, it's really hard to have insights. We've kind of clamped down our capacity to have insights and realization. So when I say, oh, whatever I'm meeting, whatever happens to me is part of my practice, immediately that's giving us the opportunity to recognize the virtue, the wisdom, the insight that it's putting. Like, what part of me, what aspect of my personality caused me to make that mistake, right? Being vulnerable, to being impressionable to what others think, being overwhelmed by wanting to appear a certain way or impress somebody in a certain way, or I mean, there's all kinds of things that all kinds of parts of ourselves that want to identify in ways that are out of integrity with virtue. So when I meet everything I experience with practice, it's then opening that up to insight and realization. So that gets us through part 3. Go ahead, Linda, please.
I was just going to say, so it seems as if this is like a circle that goes on and on and on, rather than just one thing and another. I can use this as a circle rather than getting stuck in feeling badly.
Circle in the sense that it's a cycle of life, is like that?
Yes, exactly. When I'm feeling, suffering and out of integrity with my virtue, and rather than feeling badly about that and try to change that or whatever I do, I could just see it perhaps as a gift for me to take a look at this. That's what I mean by the circle. And it will go on every day, every minute of every day. It's not like beginning and ending. Right. I mean, I catch myself saying, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I can just see where that's nowhere, like I will do it again. It's a question of just keep going through the circle of it all.
Right. But that moment where you're acknowledging you did something out of integrity.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not just your virtue, it's all our virtue, isn't it?
Yes.
Virtue,
well, just saying that alone is everybody's also doing that.
Right. But acknowledging that, like that's a moment of awareness, isn't it?
Yes.
And so what my practice is learning to trust the power of awareness. Right? When I say bringing whatever I meet to practice, what I'm doing is being awareness in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trusting that power of awareness. Now, I could say, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I can have that resolution, right? But the next time that opportunity presents itself, awareness is going to, there's going to be a recollection there, isn't there? And that's going to mitigate or reduce, say it's a habit, right, or a tendency that we have to do something that's out of integrity. That's going to be, the power of that is going to be lessened. Like the power of this feelings of guilt or feelings of shame, right? When we're learning to trust awareness, trust the power of awareness and the insights that it's offering us, it mitigates the power of those kind of oppressive feelings, feeling defined by a mistake. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It circles back around, doesn't it? Every time it circles back around, by bringing it to practice, by like having that moment of awareness, there I am again, right? That's the same, that I'm familiar now with that feeling, that tendency to identify and feel defined, right? Every time it comes back around, it mitigates the power of those oppressive kinds of feelings. It is a process, isn't it? It's not like one time I can just realize it and bam, I'm free of that feeling.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It cycles around.
Because you said to me the last time about forgiving myself, about a situation I described, and you said I need to forgive myself. And I have caught myself many times going there. And then I said, well, Terry said I need to forgive myself. So I forgive myself. I mean, it's becoming a habit to forgive myself. It's quite luscious. I really thank you,
Well, see, that's the power of acknowledgement, isn't it?
Yes.
So what you're doing every time is that it's awareness that's doing that work, isn't it?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have to be attached to that. I don't have to feel defined by this. Right?
Yes.
I can learn from this each time. Each time it goes deeper. What's my attachment here? What kind of, I can actually use that as a moment of self-inquiry, can I? A contemplative moment. What am I fixated on here? What's inclining me to have these thoughts and these feelings, right? What am I holding on to? What part of me is holding on to these tendencies, this inclination? And again, without judgment. It's so important not to put judgment on that moment of awareness. Feel defined or judged or comparing, oh, but they don't do that, or she doesn't do that. Or, I've never seen him do something like that or have that. I can't imagine them having that kind of thought, right? I mean, that's comparing, and it's total fabrication. It's completely fictitious when we're comparing, aren't we? We're just projecting some image that we have about who we should be or who somebody else should be or who they are, right? It's just a project. So that moment of awareness is the key, because that's where the insights come up. Just trusting the awareness. The judging is not reliable. The comparing is definitely not reliable. It's not beneficial, it's not helpful to our awakening. Not at all. It's our innate virtue that we're learning to trust. The power of that, the virtue and what we talk about in the five skandhas, the two essential qualities of life are awareness and virtue. I'm learning to resonate there. I'm learning to trust there. Awareness and virtue, right there, every moment, every second, every instant, right? Always present. I'm learning to trust that. And anything out of integrity is like pointing, oh, there, I wasn't so trusting there. I wasn't so, and we're taking refuge, and that's the first power of support is refuge. We're taking refuge in the power of awareness and the power of virtue. It's very skillful.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Any other insights?
Just hearing you talk about that, I don't know if this is particularly insightful, but just recognizing that it is a cycle that we are continually digging deeper in, and that we will if we're evolving, even if we're not, we're either evolving or devolving, right? So we're always going to get to these phases of being out of integrity. And the trick is, I think, to give ourselves the spaciousness to become aware of that we're out of integrity, and to realign. Because like, even let's say we're not devolving, like let's say we're evolving. As we deepen in skillful means, we're gonna kind of automatically get out of integrity, because we'll become aware of maybe some conditioning or something that we hadn't been aware of before. And so now we need to dig deeper so that we can get back into a new alignment, right? It's like, so anyway, that was just
No,
my thought.
you're absolutely right. We're just going deeper and deeper, aren't we? And as we go deeper, other things will come up, you know, other thoughts, other experiences, memories, whatever, are going to come up. I mean, this is what we're going, is we're unearthing our psyche here, aren't we? And this is difficult work. I mean, I don't want to mince words there. I don't want to try and soften that or say, oh, you know, everything's all joy, peace, and love. This is difficult work. This is challenging work, right? But as parts of ourselves come up that, you know, wow, that's not so pretty, or that wasn't so nice, or, you know, no, you're exactly right. We just keep going deeper and deeper. And, you know, I guess enlightenment means we've gotten all the way to the, you know, to the core. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means, but, you know, how deep can we go, right? How deep are we willing to practice? So this is why we go into deep retreats, you know, where there's nothing else going on but just the mind. That's all that's happening there, right? There's no other distractions. There's nothing else going on. We're just the mind. It's just, that's all we're working with. That's really challenging work. Yeah. I mean, I recommend to begin that by doing a 10-day Vipassana retreat. I can tell you, that's good stuff. that's very fertile ground right there. Yeah.
It's torture.
Yeah, it's torture.
I've done it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
I love it.
More accurately described as torture, right? Right. All right, friends, we're getting close. Anything else? Philip, did you want to jump in there?
I wanted to say that the understanding or the awareness of emptiness can help us make decisions. Sometimes we're faced with a very difficult decision that affects somebody else's life. And knowing that any course of action we take is as empty as any other course of action helps a lot.
Yeah, right. Are you just trying to get out of making a choice? No, but
No,
you're right. You're right.
Just sometimes we know whatever direction we take, there are going to be difficulties.
There's going to be difficulties. Exactly right. So our challenge is to make wise choices, isn't it?
Try to make wise choices.
Well, work with whatever wisdom we have. But if we put that choice in the context of wisdom, right, we just work with whatever wisdom we had. And yeah, we'll make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to make mistakes. That's why this part 3 is so skillful. It's impossible not to make a mistake in this life.
Yeah.
It's, so you're exactly right. Right. All right, friends. Anything else?
I just wanted to make a quick comment about the depths of our practice. Sometimes I feel like I'm going deeper, and then the depths is just insurmountable. But there comes a time where you see through that, where there's this I don't know, dissolving of that depths, and you're able to see through it to the other side. Would you
Mhm.
agree, Terry?
That's an insight, isn't it? Every
Yeah.
time we have an insight, it's just cutting right through it, isn't it?
Exactly. But that's very helpful to me because to keep digging down deeper, and I'm constantly digging into that conditioned wound,
Mm-hmm.
there's that tendency to feel like there's a goal or a depth that I need to get
Mm-hmm.
to find insight, when it's really not about the objective or the goal. It's just about patience.
I think what's helpful there, Chris, is to realize it's all already present.
Yes.
It's already fully present. I don't have to get to it. It's already here.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to say, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. It's a hard rock miner using diamonds to dig for diamonds. Okay. Okay. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and sorrow and the causes of suffering and sorrow. May we all remain undivided from the sacred joy, free from sorrow, and all together in this moment come to rest in the great equanimity beyond attachment or aversion. May our feet always be on the path. May our hearts be open, our minds clear, and all of our activities beneficial. All right, friends, have a great rest of the week and weekend.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling and darlings. Thank you.
Darlings. Thank you,
Goodbye.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
Terry. Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris.